Hey, what's up guys? It's Mark. And this is part one of the 7-part series that I'm going to do on getting started with backpacking. So this series, guys, is going to span actually over a few months because I'm going to be incorporating and sprinkling in some other videos from some backpacking trips that I have coming up. Also, in this video series, I'm going to be pointing out different links, some different gear, some different resources, and some other channels that are on YouTube. And I'll be posting those links down below as well throughout this series. So be sure to check out those links and those other channels as well. So what am I going to be covering in this series? That's a good question. Let me go over some of the topics I plan on covering. I'll introduce today's topic in just a second, but I'm going to be covering topics like which tent to get, what are some good backpacks, how to choose a good backpack, how to choose a good tent, how to choose a good sleep system. We're going to be talking about food on the trail and be talking about funny stories that we have on the trail. I'll be talking about clothing for the trail. I'll also be talking about miscellaneous luxury items you might want to take on the trail. But in today's video, it's all about literally getting started backpacking. Where to hike, how to find where to hike, how to know what gear to even start to look for, and whether or not we should hike alone or we should hike with friends or both. Now I will say this, I might change up some of my topics as I go because some people might put some questions in the comment box below, or maybe I'll just have another idea come to me, but those are probably the topics I'm going to be covering in this series. So when I got started backpacking a few years ago, I had backpacked right after high school and stuff, but just got back into backpacking quite a few years ago now. I had no plan, no idea where to go in Michigan. I knew of a lot of campgrounds and some maybe day hiking spots, but where do you go for overnight backpacking? I had no idea. I actually had a friend who's a coworker of mine who had just gone out a couple months before the trip that we went on and found a really good location in Michigan to get started. And that's where I was introduced to blazes on the trail, that different trails have different blazes and that you follow the blazes. That really got me going. So I want to talk about that first. And what I mean by talk about that first is talk to people. You probably have people that have done some backpacking. You probably know of people at work or just in maybe a community online that you can ask, where do I go? Are there good places in my hometown near me? Now, sometimes you might have to travel a couple hours to go get some really good spots, but I tell you what, it's worth it. So ask people around you. That's your first resource, probably your best resource just to get started. Ask. Another great resource that a lot of us probably do have near us are some outfitting stores. Where I live, we have an REI that just opened up about a year and a half ago. There's a Cabela's, which may or may not be helpful for you. For me, I was actually able to meet an employee at Cabela's who is responsible for a lot of the verbiage on some of the trail maps that you can purchase for the NCT going through Michigan and I believe Wisconsin and Minnesota as well. He was a really great resource for me when talking about my Pictured Rocks trips. Helped me out a lot. But you might also have some other local stores as well. In my area, there's actually 4 different local smaller shops. Now I think they all have websites that you can order stuff off as well, but they've been a really good resource for me over the last couple of years, talking a little bit more about tents and sleep systems and different gear and just talking to guys about different trails that are out there. So find some local shops near you, find an REI, maybe even a Cabela's or a Bass Pro Shop. There might be some guys there who are really into hiking and backpacking and they can help you out as well. People that work there generally love to talk about hiking and backpacking. Hit them up. Go in and ask. Don't be embarrassed. That's what they're there for. That's why they probably work where they work. So utilize them. Go and ask. It's okay. 2 other places to find trails are online. First, download the AllTrails app to your phone. The free version of the app will allow you to easily find plenty of trails near you. Just type in your desired location and watch the recommendations come in. You can even filter your search by trail length, difficulty, if the trail's a loop or not, and many other factors as well. So go ahead and download that app and check out all the goodness it has to offer. The other online place to find great information on where to backpack and hike are actually Facebook groups. I belong to a couple different groups online, and I've gained a lot of helpful information about trail conditions, fun with mosquitoes, and if certain trails are open or not during the wintertime, like where to park in the wintertime, what amenities might be open. So do some searching on Facebook, request to join some of those groups, and just start learning. So a word of warning about Facebook groups and social media groups. You got to be humble and you got to have thick skin. There's a lot of people on those sites who just think they're better than everybody else, that they know more than everybody else, and they're going to let you know about it. Sometimes, I tell you what, it almost seems like you open up a conversation about vaccinations. Good grief. Should you hike and backpack alone or with friends? The reason I bring this up is because a lot of thru hikers that we watch on YouTube are solo hikers, and you might think that you need to be a solo hiker too to be a real backpacker. The answer to hiking solo or with others is do both. So you may have thought that it's a hike your own hike or do what's best for you, and while that's true, I actually encourage you to do a little bit of both. Hike with some friends, but also get out, have a little solitude by yourself and hike alone. Backpacking alone gives you a good amount of time to wonder, to ponder, even pray, or do some writing, or focus more on photography. Don't go just to escape, but go to just enter more into the stillness of life and do some reflection. Was that too deep? Well, make sure you try and get out with others too, because when you go out on the trail with others, great memories are made. You're going to have a lot of funny stories. I'll highlight some of those stories later in the series. But when you go with friends as well, you can also gather ideas about gear, consider different ways to hike. You may find out that you like another's hiking pace. Maybe you need to slow down, or maybe you want to learn to get some more miles in. Either way, get out with some friends and also get out for some solitude hikes as well. So the last topic that I want to cover on this video is how do you even decide on where to start getting gear? And I think the first thing you have to do is figure out what you should buy at cheaper stores. Maybe not cheaper stores, but stores like Walmart. What gear can you get there that's going to be reliable and trustworthy? And what gear should you really go and get online and get some of that more expensive high-end gear? It's a little intimidating at first, but there's a lot of people on YouTube and a lot of people you might run into on some of those social media sites that can give you some really good insight on what gear is good to get at Walmart and what gear just drop the bucks and go get it because it's going to be worth it. Now, some of the gear that I get at Walmart are things like food. My smart water bottles, my life water bottles. You can also get Sawyer filters there. You can get some cheaper dry bags that actually work pretty good. If you need to get a replacement bladder for your Sawyer filter, you can get them there and they're reasonably priced. One thing that I found over the last few years is that your cottage industry shops, like your UGQ Outdoor, the Hilltop Packs kind of guys, these are guys that really know their stuff. I've been to REI several times. Sometimes the employees are really knowledgeable about the questions I'm asking, and sometimes they're really not. But if you go to some of these cottage industries, they know their product. If they're making tarps, they know tarps. If they're making sleeping bags or top quilts, bottom quilts, they know that stuff, and they know it in and out because they've tried it, they've failed at it, they succeeded at it, they know everything about it. I've also found that a lot of the employees at some of the smaller brick and mortar shops are also really knowledgeable. You have to know who to look for. I know it's kind of weird, but you kind of look for the guy who does hike or the gal who does hike. They kind of stand out in the store. Go find them because they're really, really helpful. So before you go into these shops or before you contact these companies, how do you even know what to ask? How do you even know what you're actually looking for? And you're doing it right now. You're watching YouTube videos on gear, on getting started. You probably have watched other YouTube videos on gear reviews and what different people are using. There's Darwin on the trail. He's phenomenal, puts out phenomenal content, does great Q&A about gear. There is Homemade Wanderlust, who just continues to put out great content and great information about gear. Second Chance Hiker was really inspirational this past year, and I think he continues to be, so I'm excited
excited to see what he's going to do this year. Follow Bigfoot. It has some great content out there as well and some great gear reviews. Some other mentions I want to throw out there of different videos I watch. Dan Becker, Outdoor, he's got some great stuff as well. He does a lot of gear reviews. JK's Hiking's putting out good content. There's another guy, Jeremiah Stringer. And then Backpacking with Jason. Those are the Kentucky fellows. They do some great stuff over the winter. They've been going out a lot just for one-nighters, and man, they cook awesome feasts out there. But all of those guys, they're putting out gear reviews, and they're weekend warriors. So that first group, they're through hikers, right? The second group that I mentioned were weekend warriors, and they're going to give you ideas of gear that works for those shorter trips, for the non-through hikes. And I find that to be really helpful. And the last one I want to mention is I've just been loving his videos lately, and that's Miyagi on the trail. He's got this guy, Miyagi, you're great too. I love your stuff. Man, but when you throw Milos on there, wow, I just die laughing. So check out Miyagi on the trail. All of his content is great, but there's a certain kind of special when he has Milos on there. Here's the last word I want to say about watching YouTube videos about gear. You need to, hike your own hike. You need to gear your own gear, because YouTube guys and gals, they change what gear they like and don't like at a given season. And that's totally great. I do the same thing, right? We want to try something new, try something different. So like Darwin, he was all about Dyneema, if I can talk, Dyneema bags for backpacks, right? This year, he's going away from that. He doesn't want to use them anymore. So you're like, oh my gosh, I spent $300 or $400 on this Z-Packs bag, and now he's going away from it. Did I do something wrong? No, you didn't. You didn't. Other than maybe you didn't get the bag that you actually wanted in the first place. I don't know. Dan Becker was all about not being ultralight anymore last year. Now he's going back to ultralight. That's awesome. That's phenomenal. But don't get hooked on what these people say as being the gospel about the gear that you need to get. They're sharing the gear that they like and what they want to use, and it gives us ideas of what to use. So really, gear your own gear. Get your information, get some ideas from YouTube, but at the end of the day, get what works for you and get what you want to use.